Big Buck Registry, Big Buck Podcast, episode number 5.
Hey folks, this is Jim Krueger from Antleritis.com, and you're listening to the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast.
All right, welcome to the show, everybody. This is Jay Scott, your host of the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast. Today is Tuesday, February 13th, 2013, and this is our 5th episode of the Big Buck Registry Big Buck Podcast. We want to say thank you to the entire Big Buck Registry contingent for joining us, and we could not be here without you. So thanks again. Please come back and see us often and download the podcast. Visit our websites. Submit your pictures of your deer. Tell us your stories. We want to hear it all. All right, we have a great lineup for you today. We have Jim Krueger from Antleritis.com, and Jim is a very accomplished hunter out of Minnesota and has some interesting tools and techniques, and has some interesting devices actually that he's created for displaying antlers after the hunt. Also has some cool stuff to do with the taking a picture of your deer and turning it into a decal so you can actually put it on your truck in multiple formats. We also speak with Aaron Hill. Aaron is out of Iowa. And I have never hunted Iowa, but Aaron gets into some very interesting details about the landscape and how you have to hunt Iowa. It's not really all that hilly, so it's much different than hunting the Adirondacks in New York. And Iowa is just loaded with big bucks, and Aaron has submitted some big deer on the website as well. We're going to check in on the Big Buck Registry Deer of the Year contest to see how that's going. That will be wrapping up here in 2 weeks. So the deadline for voting is going to be on February 28th, and we will announce the winner right here on the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast. So if you want to find out who the winner is, you got to tune in and find out right here on the podcast. Let's see. Who else do we have? Oh, we're going to check in on some Twitter followers, and we're going to give you an idea of who we're going to speak to next week. And if you or anyone you know would like to be on the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast, whether you're an experienced hunter, a novice hunter, a pro hunter, an amateur hunter, somebody that just has a great deer hunting story, please let us know. We'd like to hear from you. So all you have to do is send us an email. Send an email to jay@bigbuckregistry.com. and tell us a little about who you are, what your story is. We get a lot of submissions, and we do have to work through them. But certainly we'd like to have everybody on the show at some point. So if you or anybody you know would like to be on the Big Buck Registry, Big Buck Podcast, again, jay@bigbuckregistry.com. Just shoot us a quick email. Let us know, and we'll set up a phone call, and we'll do an interview. All right, so let's check in on the Deer of the Year contest. Right now, Jamie Boyd has 827 likes. We have Zach McKenzie with 483. We have Dalton Campbell with 336. And Chelsea Hall with 237. So looks like that, unless something changes, unless Dalton can pull ahead of Zach, or if Chelsea can get some more likes, looks like those are your 4 contenders. And I think what we'll do over the next week is we'll start posting these last 4. Actually, we're going to throw in the final 8 here. Now we'll do the final 10. Every day, we're going to post 5 a day, 5 today, 5 tomorrow, and just say, all right, last chance to vote for the final contenders here. Please like this picture if you want to vote for this deer as Deer of the Year. So that's kind of wrapping up. So good luck to everybody, and looking forward to next year's contest too. Let's go to Twitter now. Let's go and check this out. We have some very had a lot of Twitter followers recently. We've had, let's see, we want to say thank you to a lot of recent followers. Mike Timlin from the Red Sox, Camo Space, which is the largest social networking for hunters. Antleritis.com. So that's Jim Krueger. He's the person we're speaking with today. Big Diesel, Dan McCarthy, John Smith, Monica Morrison, who is the Huntress Wear Pro Staff Manager, Team Vital Shot, Kyle Harp, who's a redneck and a wrestler, Canuck 9, Kevin Costner and the MW. Kevin Costner, the actor, he has a band called Kevin Costner and MW, and we're going to see if we can get some music put on the show here. We'd like to hear some of that music and see what's going on there. And let's see, we've got Tiffany Cottrell, Rax Deer Mineral, Hunting Jobs. Hunting Jobs is interesting. It looks like there's a bunch of outdoor jobs that are posted. We're going to try to have them on the show as well. Jerry Remy from the Red Sox, Jerry Remy's Grill, Hannah Utley, Milford McCluskey, Rigid Tent Systems, Venison HQ, Hunter's Guide. Let's see, Hunting Talk, Taylor McLean, Northern Tales, Chris Iden, Starving Outdoorsman. That's kind of a funny topic. Fishing Journal, The Swamp Donkey, who is a registered guide, turkey and moose guide out of New Hampshire. Tyler Harden, Big Rack Central, a few others, on and on. So, if you would like to follow us on Facebook, you can go to www.facebook.com/Big Buck Registry, and our Twitter handle is @BigBuckRegistry on Twitter. So that's a wrap of some of the Twitter followers. We'll check in again next week and make some more notes on who started to follow us. But thank you to everybody who's followed us on the Big Buck Registry on Twitter. So let's go to some of the interviews. We've got two great interviews. One is with Jim Krueger from Antleritis.com. He's out of Minnesota, and we just listen to the interview. You're going to hear a lot of great tips and tricks from Jim. He has some unique things that he uses, things that he does that are more successful, like actual techniques that he uses that are more successful than others. Things that we think we should be doing, he doesn't do. Not that these techniques don't work, but he has a couple that he uses in particular. So Jim, take it away. All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is Jay Scott, and I am here with Jim Krueger from Antleritis.com. And, Jim, we couldn't be more pleased to have you on the show. So welcome.
Well, thank you, Jay. It's a privilege to be here, and really appreciate the time.
Well, I appreciate that. We were very excited to talk to you. You have something that's kind of unique out there in the hunting world. We haven't seen anything quite like this, and we love to cover great content. And it looks like you're doing some interesting stuff out there. Now, whereabouts are you, Jim?
I'm in central Minnesota, about an hour north of the Twin Cities.
Gotcha. All right. That's St. Paul and Minneapolis, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, land of the snow today.
Yeah, that's snow belt a lot of the times, as I recall. I spent a little time out there, and it got real cold because we were out there in January, and I went to one really cool restaurant, and it was called Chino Latino. You ever been there?
I have not been there. No, I have not.
It was pretty cool. It basically has food from anywhere, any kind of dish that was served anywhere around the world along the equator. They had it there.
Wow, I'll have to go check that out. We do have some outstanding restaurants here. There's no doubt about it.
Cool. It came recommended through a friend of mine, and it did not disappoint. It was kind of interesting.
Oh, excellent, excellent.
So, okay, so you're out in Minnesota, and what do you do for a living, Jim?
Well, I work for a large university, and I'm the building and grounds supervisor out there, and I'm fortunate enough to manage 5,600 acres of a natural resource history area where we do a lot of ecological research. And one of the things that I'm allowed to do is manage our deer population.
That's pretty cool. So you've got 5,000 acres to manage, and you didn't have to buy it. You get to manage it, and it's like your playground. Is that correct?
I don't know what to tell you. I'm a member of the Lucky Work Club.
Love it.
Really enjoy my job. We have very unique ecosystems out there. We have large forest prairies. We have oak savannas, cattails, cedar swamps. Again, just a super, super diverse location. And one of the other things I get to do out there is hunt morel mushrooms, which I really enjoy.
Well, that's pretty cool. Now, morels, those are a specialty mushroom, correct?
Yeah, they grow about 10 days out of the year where we're at, and they grow on the south side of live oaks primarily in a leaf litter kind of forest, and it comes together when soil temperature and moisture hit kind of an equilibrium out there in the ecosystem. If you get the soil temperature but not the moisture, you get very few mushrooms.
No kidding. Now, how are morels, can you describe the flavor? I'm sure it's mushroom based, but what would you say that what kind of flavors do you get out of a morel?
Well, it's kind of a nutty flavor. Some people think the aroma is almost of a roasted cashew. Once you had them, you're going to become addicted to it. And for me, it's just as much about the hunt as it is the harvest and the eating of them.
I think you hit a nerve there. I think that's pretty common amongst all hunters, is that the hunt is as nice as the harvest.
Right. I'll take people out shed hunting. We sponsor some groups for youth bow hunting, ladies bow hunting, but I don't share a whole lot of morel mushroom locations.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't share the knowledge of morels. Those things are pretty hard to come by from what I understand.
Yeah.
I bet they taste great with venison, though.
They taste excellent with venison.
I can only imagine. That's awesome. So how did you come across this pretty cool job working for a university to manage 5,000 acres?
Well, like most things, it was by somebody I knew that was retiring. I do have a degree in natural resource management, and I had worked for 15 years as an environmental scientist, so I was a real natural fit. My father was a union carpenter, so I spent a lot of weekends building garages and decks. So I had a little bit of construction background. I work on my house myself. So between the natural resource education and the ability to, shall we say, be a handyman, I was really a natural fit. But truth be told, I knew somebody, and they were retiring, and I kind of fell into it.
Classic case of you know the right people, and you're at the right place at the right time.
Well, that's right. And the other thing is you have to be a good person, and I believe good things happen to good people, and you don't burn bridges. You take care of things. You become a man of your word, and those kind of opportunities do follow you around.
Absolutely. Great. Well, I'm glad you got this job, because it sounds like you've turned in something very cool, not only as the job, but beyond that. And you've opened up Antleritis.com. How did you come about that kind of website?
Well, I'm a big shed hunter, and they started to pile up on the floor. And my wife told me one day, she said, get them off the floor. So I went out to the garage, and she thought I was clearing room for them on the shelf. Well, imagine her surprise when I came in with a little hand-carved wooden device that holds them on the wall. Part of the reasoning for this is I didn't want to drill holes in them. I didn't want to ruin them, and I wanted to be able to snap them in and out, hang them on a wall to show them off without doing any damage to the antler. So then I came up with this little shed kind of clip holder device that works very, very well.
All right, cool. Let's get into that in a second. I want to hear more about the device. It sounds like an invention.
Yeah, I originally only did it for myself, but the more people seen it, the more I was whittling them out of wood. So then we just went into production with it, and it kind of took off from there. In fact, we're doing better and better business as we seem to go along, and more people are recognizing there are other ways to display your shed antlers than just putting them on a shelf or hanging them on a pile. And if you got a deer, like a shoulder mount, they look really nice on the wall next to a shoulder mount. And you can also take them off in seconds, handle them. Anybody that collects shed antlers, they know what I'm talking about when I say you want to also handle them and look at them and show them off. And you drill a hole on them, put them on a skull plate, and you just lost it.
Right.
It's no longer a shed.
Right. And I'm guilty of that. I didn't really have any other way to do it. But it looks like you've had enough sheds that you've come across to figure out a way to avoid doing that. And I'm looking at a picture on your website, on your Facebook page, and it looks like it just holds, you slide the antler up into a device, and it just kind of supports the rack there. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a little shelf that goes underneath, and then there's two square bend hooks that can be folded down over the G2, G3, the antler, beam, the brow tine. The way you hang a shed in them is really unlimited. And when we go out and do our shows in the spring, I try to hang them as many different ways as I can, just to show the versatility of the product.
Gotcha. Now, how did you come up with this idea? You're just trying to find a new way to hang an antler?
That's right. I just wanted to put them on the wall without doing any damage. That would put them in and out in a relatively quick fashion. And, again, it was key, no damage.
Very cool. I love it. I love the ingenuity, and I love that it goes along with kind of what you were doing to begin with. That's very cool.
Oh, thanks, Jay.
All right, so tell me about shed hunting itself. I've done some of it, but I haven't done a lot of it, and I'm curious and I'm intrigued at the same time. As a novice shed hunter, what do I need to know?
Well, there's a few things you need to know. A lot of it has to do on the property you're looking at. I'm fortunate enough to hunt private property, so I'm able to allow them deer to shed antlers. For the deer to shed their antlers. So a lot of years I don't start looking till the end of February, beginning of March. Then I'm not driving the bucks out of their bedding areas and off of the property. However, if you're hunting in an area where it gets some pressure, you may have to get out there a little early. But it's real classic. You need to find the buck bedding areas. You need to find where they feed also, and south-facing slopes, food sources, oak flats. I'll tell you what, I find more sheds along swamp, woodland edges than I do inside of a wood or in a field. And deer are creatures of edges, and they'll walk a swamp wood edge, I think, more than any other edge.
I like what you just said there. Deer are creatures of edges. That's something to put in the mental bank. And remember that for when we go out hunting. I think that's awesome. I like that a lot.
Yeah, they really are.
Do you use any dogs to find the sheds?
I do not use any dogs.
Okay.
Mostly because dogs aren't allowed on our property, being a natural history area. But what I do use is trail cameras. I happen to run 10, 11 of them, and I will monitor my cameras to find out exactly when the deer are dropping and shedding their antlers. And it can also give you an idea of which direction to look. If a buck walks by with both antlers and he's heading east, and 2 days later he's coming back west and he's only got one, it does give you a little bit of an idea of the direction you need to look. So trail cameras can be used for more than hunting.
It's interesting you say that. Okay, so one of your key techniques and tricks to finding good sheds is actually not using a dog, but you are using a device, and the devices the device that you're using, several of them, is a trail camera, which most of us would use for hunting itself, but you're actually using them to monitor the pattern of the bucks after the hunt to find where they might be dropping sheds.
Oh yeah, it works both ways too. It can give you an idea of bedding areas and food patterns, and it can tell you a lot about your deer herd. But yes, I do use them to help me locate sheds.
Okay. Tell us about what kind of game cameras you're using.
Well, I use two kinds. I use the Cuddy back. I'm a big proponent of them, and I also use the Moultrie black. There are a few deer that are camera shy. I strongly believe that. I've put out corn piles before and cameras, and I've actually witnessed bucks locking up at the sight of a camera and refusing to even come in for a free meal. So the Moultrie black, being very small, well camoed, with no visible flash, red dot, or anything, is actually becoming one of my favorite cameras right now.
Interesting. Okay, so you've been a Cuddyback Digital fan for a while, and now you're the Moultrie black has captured your attention.
Yes, that's correct.
Gotcha.
Cuddyback puts out a wonderful product. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
They take excellent photographs, and really, those two aren't the only two good cameras out there. There are several other cameras out there that are equally as good. Those are just the two that I've used the most.
So the Moultrie black, it's a smaller unit.
It's smaller, it's lighter, it's got a longer battery life, and the camouflage pattern on it is probably one of the best in the business right now.
Gotcha. How's the user interface on the camera itself?
They're all getting simpler and simpler all the time. They used to be quite complicated to program and run, and it actually used to take you 2 to 3 minutes to set up a camera. I'd say 7, 8 years ago, when now you can turn it on, aim it, and just watch it count down. So they've really become user-friendly.
Okay. Now, let's say you have a couple of cameras set up. You get some pictures of a buck coming in. What do you do next? What's the next thing that clicks in your head?
Well, I take note of what time he comes in. I also take note of if it's morning or if it's evening. And then obviously temperature, moon phase, the direction he's traveling. Is he on a walk? Is he on a run? You look at his body posture. That'll tell you what phase the deer are in. I'm a believer there's several phases of the rut. It's not just a chasing, but body posture really tells you a lot about what's going on in the deer woods and when actually to be out there hunting.
Okay. Do you get on foot after you check your cameras and then say, okay, there must be a shed down here because this is where he was traveling at that point?
Oh, yeah, almost definitely. Being pretty knowledgeable of the land, I have a pretty good idea of where the bucks are bedding and where they're feeding. So I'm able to set up my cameras on trails in between bedding and feeding. And basically what it tells me is it possible he lost his shed over where they're feeding, or do I need to go crawl into the swamp to go look for that shed?
Gotcha. Now, Minnesota is not the kind of territory that is shy to cold weather or snow, correct?
No, we get our share of cold and snow, that's right, yes.
So how are these Moultrie cameras holding up in that kind of environment?
I've got actually one out testing right now where I put the camera out with brand new batteries at the start of the winter, and it is still at 75% going through some very, very cold weather, snow, and the battery life is holding out exceptional. Whereas a Cuddyback right alongside it, I'm on my second set of batteries and soon to be third.
That's interesting because I have an older Cuddyback Digital that is actually, it's still using the old card, not an SD card, but the I forget what they even call them these days, but it's a bigger card. But my battery life does die down, especially when we get into these sub-freezing temperatures, pretty quick. So I'm going to have to check out this Moultrie camera and see if we can get some different kind of results. Excellent.
Yeah, do that. I've got the same cutty backs. They take them great big. They're not an SD card. They're more of a flash card.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a flash card, exactly.
Yeah, and the battery life on most of the earlier cameras, it's not what it is. And the brand new cutty backs, the battery life has improved in them.
Okay.
But I have to be honest and say nothing matches that Moultrie.
Excellent. All right, I'll have to check that out. Now, as far as the hunting on your land, you're a bow hunter primarily, is what it sounded like.
Yes.
You have an intimate knowledge of the territory, so you kind of know where the deer are hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of other techniques do you use other than knowledge of where the deer are and just being familiar with the territory all the time? What other things do you use as a preparation for a hunt?
Oh, nothing beats scouting. Being out there on your boots. I'll go out and I'll sit in the evening with a pair of binoculars, and I'll play the wind. I'll glass large areas. I'll see where the bucks are coming out, what times they're coming out, the age class of the deer that are coming out. And you also want to keep track of your does and fawns also. There's an old saying that says if you want to shoot a buck, hunt does, and it's never more true than during the rut. So you watch your cameras, you watch the body posture, you see what the bucks are doing, and then you get in there and you hunt your doe areas. And that's where the bucks are going to come running around. And with a little bit of on-the-ground scouting, look for scrapes, look for rubs, look for areas where bucks are coming in and out, and then get in between them and the does. And that's been a recipe for success for me.
Okay. That's a great old adage. Hunt the does, and the bucks will take care of themselves. Gotcha. What about scent control? Do you do anything there?
My wife thinks I'm a freak. Yeah, I absolutely do. I wash everything in scent wash soap. I put them all in bags, and then they also go inside totes. I don't get dressed until I'm out in the woods. Rubber boots, I spray down every single time. I play the wind. I can't stress that enough. Scent control does help, and it should be a part of your game plan, but don't count on it as the end all. You absolutely have to play the wind. Things will give you away besides the nose of the deer that you're hunting. It could be a doe, it could be a coyote, it could be anything out there. So I can't stress it enough. Play the wind. Don't go into hunt areas when the wind's bad. It only takes a time or two, and this is also very true. Big bucks will avoid it or go nocturnal.
Right. Okay. So your advice is, yes, use scent control. Wash your clothes. Don't expose them to any foreign smells.
That's right.
Now, what do you have a particular kind of scent control product that you're using that you like better than others?
Well, I use the scent lock suits, but there's been some debate in the hunting community if they really work. I do believe they work, and that's part of the game too. You have to believe in what you're doing and believe in what you are using, and that keeps your confidence up. Both things are a very mental game. I use the hunter safety system, which I strongly believe in. I use the scent away, which I really believe in. And bow hunting is a very mental game. You must believe in what you're doing, and your success will go up.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's scouting first, knowing your area you're hunting second. Third, you'd say stay downwind. And then fourth, scent control.
Play the wind.
Play the
wind and scent, yes.
Okay. Gotcha. That's some very good advice. It seems to be the common theme we're hearing from really good deer hunters is that it's about scent control. It's about knowing the wind direction, being almost obsessed with making sure your clothes are cleaned correctly with the right detergents,
Right.
that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Yep. Excellent. So tell us about, you've harvested some big bucks. You must have, with all the antlers that you've got out on Antleritis.com. You must have harvested some of the bucks that whose sheds you found.
Yeah, I'm well, how do they say, luckier than most. I have one deer that I've harvested where I have 5 sets of sheds off of this deer, and we ended up harvesting him as an 8.5-year-old with a 10-inch drop time. And again, it's just persistence. It's doing the right things. And one of the key things that we do is we give the bucks their bedding area. We give them their core area. We stay out of it. We don't go into it. We don't hunt it. We don't scout it. We don't set cameras in there. And we'll hunt around it. We'll hunt the fringes of it. We tend to see more bucks more often. Years and years ago, we used to go right in after them. We'd blow them out, and then nobody'd see bucks the rest of the year. By hunting the fringes of their areas, giving them their areas, yes, I've harvested some real nice bucks. I've been very, very lucky that way.
That's a very interesting point you just made, and I haven't heard this yet. You've actually identified areas within the piece, the 5,000 acres, and when you say we, you have a group of people that you hunt with?
I have a couple of bull hunting partners, yes.
Okay.
I have a couple of friends that hunt with me that are actually partners with me in Antleritis.
Okay. So you're hunting, you've identified the bedding areas for the bucks, and you don't go in there. Because when you did, way back, the bucks would get kicked out and you would never see them again. So
that's right. They'd go nocturnal,
yep.
Or they'd go to other parts of the property, or they would just avoid us.
Right. Now, how do you identify the fringe from the non-fringe?
Well, in our area, it's the bigger bucks tend to like to bed into the swamp areas, the thick brush areas. And then our fringe areas are, again, them swampy, brushy areas that bed up to the oak flats, the oak ridges, which the bucks will parallel. They'll pop out of them swamps into the oak ridge scent check, but then they'll go right back down in there. Very few of the very, very mature bucks will come out and walk the oak flats and the ridges. They like to stay next to that thick bedding cover. So we just give them that, and we hunt, like I said, just in fringe areas where they may pop their head out. And then I've kind of developed a little trick, and it's helped me take 3 of the last 4 bucks that I've harvested, and that it's with a grunt call. And if you use them, learn how to use them, listen to the deer in your area, and like I said, there's one little trick I use with the grunt call that just brings bucks in running.
Can you describe the trick?
Yeah, what I do is a tending grunt call where it's just kind of a real short burst where you go erp, 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 erp. And as I'm doing this, I turn my head from left to right or right to left. And what it does is it gives you the impression, or the deer the impression, that there's a buck tending a doe that's on the move. And if I see a buck off in a distance, that call has brought in more deer than rattling, than loud grunting, than contact grunts. It's just something bucks associate with. If you ever seen a buck chasing a doe, almost every other step or every step, they're emitting a grunt, that erp, erp, erp. And by imitating that at the right time, bucks can't stand it. They got to come in and look.
Interesting. I've experienced that call in the woods only a couple times, but it's very distinct, and it usually is led by some does that are flying through the woods, and then the bucks right behind them making that exact sound.
That's right. And then the bucks will come in a hurry to investigate, because by turning your head, they think them deer are on the move.
Right. Great technique. That's a great piece of advice there. All right. So are you doing any rattling as well, or you pretty much stick to the tending grunt call?
No, I do a little bit of rattling during the pre-rut, mostly when the bucks first get up and they start cruising. I have rattled in a few nice bucks. The one on my website where you see me with the giant 7-pointer, I rattled him in from a couple hundred yards away, and he ran to me. So rattling does work. The bucks can hang up on rattling. I mean, they're looking for a visual as well.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, a buck fighting or clashing their horns, they're not on the move. So that's why the tending grunt seems to work really well for me, because, again, the bucks think them deer are on the move, so they waste no time in coming in. For the rattling, some run in, some hang up.
So you've played with other techniques, but your trump, the one that you're going to go to most often is your tending grunt call, turning your head side to side.
Yeah, that's correct. You also have to do it at the right time in the deer woods, meaning when the bucks are out actually physically chasing the does. I use it during the chase phase, especially, and then what they call the second rut, or later on after the rut, when the second wave of does, or the does that didn't get bred, come into estrus. That's a great technique to use then, too.
Okay, but not during the rut itself.
No, that's a little tougher. I mean, bucks get locked down with does during the actual breeding phase, and it can get pretty quiet in the woods for a few days here and there.
So,
but they'll be back.
So when they're in the pursuit mode and they're not locked down with a doe, that's when you're finding that technique to be the most useful.
Oh yeah, there's a week during the season, at least where we are, where that's an excellent technique. In fact, I think we killed 6 mature bucks in 9 days with that technique early November this year. I think the average size of that buck was about 147, 148 range.
Gotcha. And when you say size, you're referring to the antler size, not the weight, correct?
No, that's correct. That's an antler score.
Okay. All right. That's pretty convincing evidence that a tending grunt call at the right time of year can be one of the most effective calls that you can use.
Yes, that's right. And rattling can be also at the right time of the year, and so can estrus doe bleat. Again, it comes down to reading your whitetails, and just nothing replaces being out in the woods and noticing and listening to what's happening out there. Some of my best hunts, I don't shoot a buck, but I learn.
So would you say that it's at certain times of the year during the season, it's almost better to be vocal than to stay quiet?
Well, there's people that go both ways, but I'm more of an aggressive hunter, yes, so these tactics do work. I have a lot of confidence in them. I've spent a lot of time with them. I've listened to deer. I can almost talk to our herd out there at times. On the downside is you can overcall, and it will give you away, and it will educate your herd. So, again, nothing replaces time, experience, and listening and learning. Don't get me wrong, every year rookie hunters go out there and shoot really, really big bucks. But the guys that put big deer on the ground every year, they listen and watch their herd, and they really know what to do at what time.
Right. Okay. The 5,000 acres that you hunt, that you manage, are there other hunters out there, or are you and your 2 Antleritis partners the only ones that hunt it?
No. We have several hunts out there. We do 2 youth hunts to start the year, and one is called NASP, which is the National Archery in the Schools program.
Yep.
And we have a couple of groups of those kids that come in where we help educate them. We bring them through an orientation. We give them some knowledge. They spend a couple of hours on our site, PowerPoint, and then we actually take them out into the woods and, again, get some field education. They're all required to have a mentor with them, and we also have a couple of high school archery clubs that come in. And then another group that comes in is called BOW, and that's an acronym for Becoming an Outdoor Woman. And it's a ladies group that goes out there, and they have adult mentors, and they also do some bow hunting. And let me tell you this, those ladies know how to have a good time, and they're just as serious about bow hunting as any of the guys.
Right.
The reasons they do that, some of them don't have a man in their life or a hunter in their life, and some of them do, but maybe they're competitive, or for whatever reasons they can't hunt with their better half. But whatever the reasons, they're out there. We, again, educate them, take them out, try to help them do the best we can. We're very safety conscious, and above all, it's all about education and having a very, very good time.
Right. And I think that's kind of interesting is hunting doesn't require a lot of strength, really. I mean, you need some things you need for strength, but really not until you actually down the big buck do you need something that's a little bit bigger to help you drag. But yeah, there's no strength required, really.
No, there's not. The bows today, the compound bows, and I believe in Minnesota, I'm not exactly sure on this, but the poundage requirement is about 36 pounds.
Right.
And my wife shoots about 30 now. She doesn't deer hunt, but she loves to shoot bow with me. Someday I'm hoping she'll go out and deer hunt. She hunts morels. She hunts sheds. In fact, we're planning a trip to go up to Canada this year to do a shed hunt.
Yep. And that's one of the beauties of hunting is that it's men and women can enjoy it equally.
Men, women, kids. You can bring your kids out there.
Absolutely.
All my kids have spent time out in the outdoors. My youngest daughter, she won't let me morel hunt without her. Now, she won't eat them, but she is absolutely caught up in the game, the hunt, the harvest, and just the thrill of being successful and being able to identify them and spend time out in the woods. And she asks almost every time, can I bring a friend?
Right. And
we are introducing some high school girls out there to morel hunting, and they're loving it.
There's nothing better than introducing anybody to the outdoors who has not experienced
it. Right. You're absolutely correct there.
I absolutely love doing that. Kids, men my own age, women, it doesn't matter. If they haven't experienced the outdoors, I always jump at that opportunity when there's even a slight hint that somebody would want to. I take them up on it because there is nothing in this world like it.
No, you're right. That's really, really fantastic. Again, I'm a big believer in that myself.
Yep. Excellent. So I want to go back to your hunting a little bit, your bow hunting. You're hunting the fringes of these areas, these bedding areas, and you're using the tending grunt call as one of your go-to calls. Tell me about the situation. Are you on the ground? Are you in a stand? How do you hunt? Or what's your technique from how do you hunt once you get there?
Oh, I'm a tree stand hunter all the way. We don't do drives. We don't do much ground hunting. We do a lot of scouting. Like I said, I run a dozen trail cameras out there. We have a good idea where the bucks are year to year and the doe areas. So we are ambush hunters. And again, you have to be a little flexible too. Things do change year to year. You got to watch your acorn mass. You've got to figure out where the does are feeding and bedding and make subtle stand adjustments. In one of my videos that we have out 2 years ago, I videoed a 2.5-year-old 8-pointer. Now, this fall, I killed him from a tree 30 yards away as a 4.5-year-old 8-pointer. So, again, we knew the area very well. We knew we have to get up in the air. I played the wind. I went, in fact, tending grunt call brought him right in.
Gotcha. Now, when you say play the wind, what do you mean? You have a fixed stand already placed on a tree. You kind of know where that stand is. Do you just pick the stand based off of the wind direction?
Yes, I do. I play the wind above everything else, and then we go in and hunt. I will not hunt an evening if I don't have a favorable wind for a location. We also don't overhunt locations. I do believe you can educate deer that way also.
Mm-hmm.
They know their area way better than you will ever know it. So,
right.
And don't be afraid to move a few stands in season. If that buck is showing up 60 yards away 2-3 nights in a row, you need to get down, move your tree stand, and reset up. We use a lot of lock-on stands, hanging stands, and then I like them ladder sticks. They're very easy to move, very, very easy to set up. They're secure. We use ratchet straps on them,
mm-hmm.
but for taking them down and setting them up, they do very, very little damage to trees, and they're very, very safe. You can set them up 2 to 3 feet above your platform so that you step right off the ladder into the stand, and I believe that's the cheapest way to go with
right.
hang-on stand.
What do you, how many stands do you hunt, or how many stands do you place during let me back up. How many stands will you place during the season or prior to the season, and are you doing it during the season or before?
I hang a lot of my stands before season, but we save a few for right before season, and then we always keep a half a dozen of them ready to go in season in case we need to set up in a day's notice in a hot area. But I think between the three of us, I'll bet we use 40 stands.
Okay. All right. So you got 3 people using 40 stands. So
yes,
you got a little like 13 stands per person, thereabouts.
Yeah, we got stands for different kind of winds, different kind of areas, and you have to remember it's not a lot of stands for that many acres. It's less than 1 stand per 150 acres.
Right. Oh, yeah. You've got plenty of acres to spread these things out. Yep.
Yes.
And then you decide which stand you're going to hunt based off of pattern of the deer, where you think they're hanging out, the wind direction coming in and out of a particular area where you think they're bedding down, that kind of thing?
Yeah. It's really a puzzle. You check your trail cameras. You know what's happening in the woods. Maybe there's a specific buck you're going after, and you have a pretty good idea where he's bedding. You know where the food source is or what the hot food source is. And in our area, we don't have food plots, so we really have to watch the browse, the acorns, and the little things like that. And you kind of switch your plan up every couple of 3 days if you have to.
Okay, gotcha. That's awesome. That's some great advice for deer hunting. Jim, thank you for taking some time to go through your pattern, your techniques, and the things that you use to become a successful deer hunter. And
yeah, thank you, Jay.
I think it's fascinating that you're going beyond that. You're doing a lot of shed hunting, so it sounds like you get into it mid-February or so and continue on through March, if I'm not mistaken. And then you get into the morels. And what time of year do the morels come in?
April and May. Then, depending on soil temperature and moisture, those two things have to come together at the right time.
Gotcha. So you're basically you're managing this property all year round. You start. Mm-hmm. When does deer season start in Minnesota?
Usually the middle of September 15th or so.
Yeah. And
we find that's when a lot of the youth groups and the ladies like to come in. They want to come in. They want to hunt first. They want to hunt unpressured deer. It gives them first crack at some of the bucks. Bucks are still in bachelor groups. They're coming to feeding areas during daylight. So it's warm. Kids don't get cold. The gals don't get cold. It really works out for everybody because then they get an enjoyable experience. And everybody knows if you enjoy something, you're going to want to do it again.
Right. Gotcha. And when does the deer season stop?
December 31st here.
December 31st. Okay. So basically you've got some downtime from January 1st through about mid-February. Then you start your shed hunting. Shed hunting goes through March, and then you kind of pick up
March and April,
and kind of rolls over into some morel hunting. So it sounds like you pretty much hunt except for January and probably May, June, July, thereabouts. But you're still scouting all year round, I would assume.
Oh, come June, July, I'm running trail cameras for the upcoming deer season.
Right.
Again, I live 10 minutes from work. I am so lucky. I like I said, I'm a member of the Lucky Work Club. I don't know what I did right in life, but I have just been truly blessed with a great job and a great life.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to say.
That's fantastic. It sounds like you're enjoying your life. You're enjoying your work. You get to play with your hobby along the way, and get outdoors. So that sounds like a heck of a great combination. You're not taking it for granted, which is even more important. That's awesome.
No, you don't take anything for granted. We work very, very hard, and above all, I take care of my job first, and we don't do anything to compromise our land, our position there, our jobs, and above all, we are a research facility first, so that always comes first, along with the safety of all the researchers. There's many months during the season, weeks, where there is no hunting allowed just because we don't want any researchers out there feeling any pressure, and the last thing we want is for anything unsafe to happen.
Right. Gotcha. Well, Jim, I wanted to go through just a couple of your products that you have for sale on your site, Antleritis.com, and it looks like it's going through Facebook as well. So you have a Facebook page called Products. You have My
wife manages that.
Okay, so it's Rita, correct?
Yes.
Rita takes care of all your online shopping.
Oh, yeah.
So tell me about we talked about the shed bed. Now, the shed bed is this mounting system you have for antlers to be on your wall without actually having to drill into the antlers. Easily removes from the wall, so you can take it down, you can show it off, you can talk about it, and you can put it right back into the mount, and the mount just stays on the wall.
Yes, that's correct.
That's called the shed bed. Now, it looks like you're doing
the shed bed.
A couple of other things. You're doing My Buck decal and the shed antler decal. Tell us about those.
Well, the shed antler decals are just a few shed antlers that I found we turned into decals that you can put on your truck. The My Buck decal is a vinyl decal where if you shoot a nice buck, you send me a picture of your buck, and I'll make you a decal for your truck. In other words, you don't have to put the Jordan buck, the Bren buck, any of them deer on your truck. You can actually put the buck that you harvested on your truck. We'll personalize it for you with a name, with a score, with a date. Some people like to put my first buck or maybe their last name, the Johnson buck. But all you have to do is send me a picture of your deer that you harvested, and I will make you a decal for your truck.
That's pretty cool. So you see these decals out there, but they're always of the world-famous bucks. And
yeah,
that's cool. Certainly appreciate those big bucks being out there. But I don't necessarily want that buck. I want the picture of the buck I shot. Even if it wasn't even close to that buck, I'm still proud of my buck. So I love that. That's a great idea. And is it okay if we put a link to your My Buck decal onto our website?
Oh, yes, of course. Please do.
Excellent.
And we have folks that send us pictures of a spike buck that they've taken. And we had one guy wanted to do a doe. So size or number of points has nothing to do with what you put on your truck. As long as you are proud of it and it is a trophy in your eyes, it's a trophy in our eyes also.
Right. Now, let's say we don't want the big decal. Can we get a small decal too?
Yeah, we have several different sizes of decals.
Okay.
We can actually customize it to whatever you would like also if you want a size. Or like I said, your name or a score or maybe a buck club. In fact, we have a local plumber here that uses a deer he shot as his logo for his company.
Yep.
And we, of course, put whatever it is, Al's Plumbing or Joe's Plumbing, and then he uses the deer he shot as his logo, and he's got them all over his truck.
Great idea. I love it. So you can actually turn, if you're doing a business and you have a buck that you're very happy with, you could actually send a picture of that buck to you. You could send it back. It becomes your decal. It becomes a big decal. It could actually even become your logo for your company or a representation of whatever company you're running, whether it's deer related or plumbing related or whatever.
Yeah, that's correct. The limitations are really what you can think of.
Right. That's so cool. All right, one last product I see on the site is called Buck Luck. Tell me about that.
The Buck Luck is just a brow tine, and I like brow tines because they've got a lot of different character. They're just not a smooth tine. And basically what we do is we cut them, we drill a little hole, we put it on a actual leather lace, and then we'll put a few colored beads or other things along with it. And what it is it's a hunting and fishing good luck charm. And I'm actually amazed at how many of them we do sell a year. A lot of kids like them. A lot of kids like their school colors on them. I'll tell you what, if you were to buy a Buck Luck, you went out in the woods and you shot a big buck wearing that, you will wear it every time you hunt and fish.
You got that right.
It will become your prized possession. And I'm amazed at how many people have come back to me saying, I lost my Buck Luck. I have to have another one, and it has to be a brown tip with red and black.
Right.
Maybe they caught a big fish or big deer. I don't know, but they want it, and they want it now.
It's all about believing. Absolutely. Jim,
that's right.
This has been a great interview. I want to thank you again for being on the show. Love your products. I love everything you're doing out there in Minnesota, and sharing that insight with us has been very special. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of our heart and our entire audience at Big Buck Registry. It's been great.
Well, thank you, Jay. I really appreciate you having me on and giving me a chance to talk not only about my product, but to also promote hunting for youth, for women, and the vast amount of other outdoor activities that you can get into. Even if you don't believe in hunting, there's a lot of different ways to get out there and enjoy our treasures of the woodlot.
I agree. Couldn't have put it any better myself. Excellent. Well, Jim, thanks again. We'll have you on again soon. We'll put all the links to your sites in our show notes and on our blog when we post the iTunes podcast. We'll make sure you have links to all that stuff so you can reshare that with your crowd as well.
Great. Thank you very much, Jay.
All right. Very good. Thanks a lot. All right. That was Jim Krueger from Antleritis.com. We will, in case you're wondering, we will post the links to his website on our show notes so you can find it there. So don't feel like you have to copy it down now. And we want to roll right into the next interview. Next interview is with Aaron Hill, and he is out of Iowa, and Aaron goes over some techniques and tricks and all the ins and outs of hunting a big Iowa buck and the landscape and all the things that you don't really think about if you don't hunt Iowa every day. So let's just roll right into the interview. Here's Aaron Hill. All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. This is Jay Scott with the Big Buck Registry, Big Buck Podcast, and I have a very special guest with us today, and Aaron Hill is joining us, and Aaron has submitted several pictures to the Big Buck Registry. He's actually submitted, I think, 5 or 6, and all of them were absolutely amazing bucks, and I had to have Aaron on the show. There's only a few times when you notice that there's one hunter being ultra successful in the field, and I couldn't pass it up. So, Aaron, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, I couldn't help but notice that several of your bucks that you shot actually were taken in a slightly different format than we usually see, and it looks like you've harvested several deer using a pistol.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about how you got into that.
Well, Iowa started pistol season quite a few years ago. I guess it was probably just kind of an extension. They added like a late season to start with, and then it was very successful in Iowa. There's a lot of people that were involved in the season, so they decided to actually make it a season kind of to itself, but they added it to our late muzzleloader season. So that's really one of my favorite seasons is, besides archery, is late muzzleloader season. You can see some of your biggest bucks during late muzzleloader season, just I think for the fact that it's cold, there's usually snow on the ground, and they're pretty much looking for food. So
right. So
the breeding season's over, and everything's kind of slowed down a little bit. And
so they actually added the pistol season onto the end of the muzzleloader season?
It's at the same time. You can actually hunt late muzzleloader season with a pistol.
Okay. And
it has to be a 357 caliber or larger.
Okay. And is it a single shot type of requirement, or is it?
No, you can use a revolver, or there's a lot of people that use revolvers. I think there's even some people that use like Desert Eagles automatics.
Oh wow! Okay.
As long as it's bigger than a 357, it's pretty much legal. It doesn't have to be a black powder pistol. It can be standard pistol.
Can you use a 357, or does it have to be bigger?
Yep.
Oh, you can.
You can use 357. Yep.
357 or bigger. That's a very interesting season. The whereabouts in Iowa are you hunting? I don't want GPS coordinates, just a general area.
Southwest Iowa.
Southwest Iowa. Okay.
Yep.
And tell us about the season. Like, when does the season start for archery?
Generally, archery season starts October 1st, and it usually goes to the first week of December somewhere, depending on when the first Saturday starts in December.
Okay.
Because usually the first shotgun season in Iowa starts the first Saturday of December. So wherever that falls, sometimes our archery season is a little bit longer or a little bit shorter.
Okay. So does it go archery, firearm, rifle mixed in there, or does it go right to shotgun?
No, we don't have a rifle season. We have a late rifle season that's bow only, but we have our archery season, and then it's first season shotgun, and that's usually around 7-8 days. And then we have a second season shotgun, which is close to 2 weeks, 10 to 14 days. And then after second season shotgun, late muzzleloader season starts, and that usually starts around the 21st, 22nd of December. And it goes until normally January 10th.
Oh, wow. Okay. Right.
And during that time, that's actually also archery season again. The second archery season starts it's going on the same time late muzzleloader season is going on.
Gotcha. So when you say that there's a first and second season, is there a few days in between, or does it just jump from one to the next?
There is a little bit of a break. Depends on how the days fall kind of in the month, but usually the seasons always start on Saturday. So the first season will go from Saturday to Friday, and then a lot of times that second season will start right up on that next Saturday and go for 2 weeks.
Gotcha. Okay. And
you can also use a pistol during shotgun season.
You can. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. And to you, the pistol season is your favorite time?
Late muzzleloader season. Yeah, that late season is. It's colder. The deer are very skittish. I mean, it's more of a hunting season, I guess, to me.
Okay.
A lot of people in Iowa, first and second season shotgun are the only seasons that we are allowed to party hunt.
Okay.
So late muzzleloader season, you're only supposed to hunt by yourself or, hunt in the blind or whatever, sit in the stand. But there are still, there's a lot of that goes on. But it's just like when the deer are running around crazy because there's, 15 guys in a group, it's really hard to, consider it an accurate hunting environment, I guess, because you don't know who's going to shoot the deer or where the deer is going to come from, or
right. Is it
very unpredictable?
It sounds pretty unpredictable. How is it common to have 15 hunters in a group?
There's very often there's 10 guys and beyond.
Wow.
And it's normally because they push sections. They'll start the good hunters, they'll watch the wind and push sections from one direction and set posters on the other end of the section and push them through draws. And believe me, the first season shotgun is probably one of the most successful seasons in Iowa.
Right.
There's many, many deer shot during that season, and I think Iowa really appreciates those hunters just because they do a really good job of taking out a lot of the does that need to be shot,
Right. It sounds like, tell me about like the environment in Iowa. Is it mostly farm kind of area where you're hunting?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a few small timbers. You may have a 20, 30 acre timber, if you're lucky, 50 acres, but most of the big plots of ground are, managed by somebody, leased properties, or they could be a public hunting access area.
Yep. Gotcha.
But it's kind of in southwest Iowa. It's we got some rolling hills mostly. And if you're in eastern Iowa, you see a lot of flat ground. If you get over to western or the southern part of Iowa, and it starts to get to some rolling hills and kind of like Missouri a little bit, northern Missouri, but we don't have as many trees. We have some of the best soil, so the majority of the ground is really crops. Okay.
So the deer don't have a ton of hiding areas, but they find them obviously, but it's more open area than woodland. Okay.
That's what's really hard though, because it's actually a lot like what you would do to hunt muleys in Nebraska or something.
Right.
Because you really have to do a lot of spotting, a lot of glass and fields, and during the gun seasons, you will find majority of your deer laying in terraces, laying in fence rows, laying in ditches and they may sit there for a week or two.
Right.
They may not get up.
That's crazy.
They may not travel too far, and that's why a lot of those deer get big. I've seen them do some crazy things. I've seen them crawl. I've seen them, sneak through groups of 15 guys and I've glassed deer in timbers and watched the people walk right by them, and then the deer get up and run the other direction, and they didn't even know what happened.
Is that right? So they're doing the old stay as still as I can and nobody will see me routine.
Yeah, I think they're probably sitting there going, I hope nobody sees me, because
right.
Unless they step on them.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of those techniques that the whitetail has really adapted, and you don't really think about it. You think they're just able to avoid us by smelling us and getting ahead of us. But in fact, they could very easily just be right there, and you don't see them move. And they're just really good at staying still.
Yeah.
Yep. That's amazing. So you have developed your techniques around that area. So you can be successful hunting that type of environment. What about the climate? What are the temperatures like and the moisture?
Late season is usually the success rate of like the shotgun seasons a lot of times depends on the snowfall. Because, of course, when there's snow on the ground, the deer are easier to spot, and they usually bunch up. So you start getting deer in, 50 to 100 head in a group. And it's not hard to spot a group like that.
Right. Right.
And so that makes a big difference on our success rate and what happens during the late muzzleloader season, because if the shotgun season groups get perfect weather, they shoot a lot of deer and they cover a lot of ground, so the deer are just that much harder to hunt.
Right. So you're go ahead.
This
Sorry.
past season, you could get fog. You could get real heavy fog, or you could get a lot of rain, and then usually they don't do so well. But we normally get the snowfall about every year. It's late muzzleloader season, so
right.
And it's cold.
Right. What type of temperatures are we talking about?
It can be anywhere from in the 30s to 20 below wind chills.
Okay.
So
getting down into the
it's
single.
colder than that, but it's it can definitely
Late season, you're getting down to single digits, and with wind factor, you get down into sub-zero.
Yep.
Gotcha. That's cold. So what type of techniques do you use? You mentioned glassing fields. Is that one of the things that you do in order to find the buck that you want to hunt?
Yep.
Yeah.
I would say in our area, I mean, it's different for a lot of people that are used to a lot of woods. If you're used to hunting a lot of trees and ridge lines and river bottoms and stuff like that, it's different. When those deer move, they move out to the open fields, they move out to the fence rows and the terraces, and because, they hope that nobody drives by them, or, they'll get a half a mile or a mile into a section, and you'll never even know they're there until you drive past them. So it's a lot of it is the success of those seasons really depends on how much homework you've done.
Right.
And when that late muzzleloader season starts, I am in my truck every day, and I glass fields and glass terraces and fence rows and ridge lines of outside the timbers, and I like to go early mornings and right before dark and find a buck that I want to hunt, because that's a big part of shooting a decent deer is you have to know if there's one in there first.
Absolutely.
There really has to be one in the area if you're wanting to shoot a good deer.
Yeah,
so,
and that's kind of like it's it's like fundamental. Well, you can't really hunt a deer that isn't there. So
yeah.
First and foremost, let's go find them. Let's go figure out where they're hanging out. So your a large part of your hunt is really driving around, glassing fields with good binoculars, trying to find a location. That's interesting, because that's not something that you can do readily in some parts of the country because it just doesn't work that well. That's very interesting. So how many hours do you spend just kind of looking first? I mean, this is relative to scouting, but, how many miles do you cover trying to figure out where the bucks are hanging out sometimes?
Well, I normally have, between 5 to 10 different timber areas that I hunt. And some of them may be, there may be some CRP fields attached, or there may be just CRP fields, because a lot of deer actually congregate to those areas during the breeding season, and then they kind of stay close to there. As long as they got food and water close, they'll stay, generally in areas that they know they're safe. So, but I spend a lot of hours driving. Sometimes I'll spend all day driving. I'll just go out and first thing light and drive all day long until I find. I mean, I normally know which areas I'm looking because I have trail camera pictures, I have sheds, I have, you know, I know there's a big deer in that section or within 3 sections because, you know, these deer in our area, they'll travel 6 miles sometimes.
Yep.
And you just got to find the section that they're in and then, you know, try to hunt them.
Right. So the deer that in Iowa and the areas you're hunting, they tend to travel long distances.
Yeah.
And you have trail cameras out, but they may not be quite as useful because of the amount of ground they'll cover. And do they get on a pattern at all, or is it something you just that's why the glassing and driving is so effective because they're not really on them?
They do, but they're a lot. It's the same in a lot of other areas too. I mean, because I think a lot of what happens is when you've got a new dominant buck that comes into an area and the old buck gets pushed out, he normally is not going to come back to that area. So if he gets pushed out of that section and finds does somewhere else, that deer may end up in that section for the rest of his life.
Right. Okay.
So, I mean, really, you see a lot of change. You may see, you know, the buck that you've been after for 4 or 5 years, you're lucky enough to have a buck, you know, that may reach the 180 or 200 inch mark.
Right.
And you watch this deer and you have pictures of this deer, but then you never see him during hunting season. Well, he could be off somewhere sitting in a ditch. And one of my hunting stories really proves this, that those deer can sit in those ditches for 2 to 3 weeks and not move.
That's incredible.
You know, you don't know that deer is there until, you know, a lot of pheasant hunters will end up pushing them out.
Uh-huh.
You know, that's the people that sometimes see those really big bucks because they're sitting in just some really thick grass or, you know, in a fence row somewhere that, you know, nobody's been by.
So they'll get up and they'll move around and feed a little bit, but then they'll go back to that spot because it's safe.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Until somebody bumps them out of there.
And I think they know, you know, once they've been around, you know, 5 or 6 years, there's, you know, that's your real mature deer in Iowa. You know, definitely, you know, you can have 150, 160 inch deer at 4 years old.
Right.
And even 3 years old, you can see 150 inch deer. But that deer that's been around, I think they find a safe zone really. And we have some areas that they go into like the state parks or something like that, you know, because they know they're never going to get hunted in there.
Right. The age of the buck versus the antler size, it seems to be much bigger than some other areas in the country. What do you attribute the large rack size to in Iowa? Is it just plentiful feed?
A lot of it is of course it's our corn. I mean, it's the corn, it's the beans, but, you know, our crops, a lot of it is the soil. We have very, very high mineral content in our soil.
Okay.
I mean, we have some of the best black dirt in the country. It's like the western part of the state, the low west hills.
Yep.
Where basically the Missouri River used to flow. It's very black dirt, and I mean, I know they eat the dirt because I've seen them do it in my yard.
Interesting.
But they, you know, I think if they need the minerals, they'll find them. But you know, they live on the corn. They live on, you know, you find out that the antler growth, as you can see with a lot of the research and stuff now, you know, people are using biologic and finding a lot of the stuff that is growing the antlers.
Right.
With food plots.
What type of minerals are you finding or have you heard are in the soils?
Oh, I mean, I don't know for sure what contributes to most of the what's helping our deer herd, but it's just most of it is just that we have some of the better crops that come from how good our soil is. I mean,
right.
There's a lot of states that really have to irrigate and add a lot of chemicals to even get their crops to our level.
Gotcha.
So I would say that, not real sure. I mean, I grew up on the farm, but with all of the chemistry and everything behind it now, it's hard to say, how much they've really found out about how much mineral and actually the vitamin content of what's in the corn versus everybody else's. I mean, maybe it's quite a bit different.
Yep. So,
but they grow fast. I can tell you that.
Our
antlers grow very fast.
No question about it. Iowa produces some big rack bucks. So once you've driven all half the day, you finally locate a buck that you're interested in. What do you do next? How do you get to the buck?
Well, normally, this time of year, once in a while you'll see them chasing, but they'll normally be, one or maybe a half a dozen bucks in a group with a bunch of does, or you might find a single buck running around with a really, really smart doe.
Yeah.
I mean, usually you'll see those big bucks with a really, really smart doe.
Interesting.
And he'll stick with her sometimes all year. Even though, he may breed multiple does, he'll come back to the doe that he trusts, I think, because a lot of times you see him, I think they send him out in the field, you go first.
Right, right.
Before I'm stepping out there. And their senses are usually sometimes better than the bucks. So, and a lot of times you'll get busted by the doe before the buck even sees you.
Right.
But really, it's just the situation is basically what the deer is doing. And if you spot them, first thing in the morning or in the evening, they're normally, right on the edge of the timber or, grazing, or they're working their way back from feeding or something like that.
Yeah.
And you basically have to let that deer go. And I mean, you really can't just, go walking towards the timber and expect you're going to shoot that deer.
Right.
You really have to figure out, and sometimes I'll do this for 2 or 3 days before I even hunt him, because you have to pattern the deer just like you do in archery or anything else. You have to really figure out what that deer is doing.
Okay. So
if that deer is coming out first thing in the morning, feeding for 2 hours and then working his way back into the timber, then, that's a perfect scenario right there. You can go out there in the dark, set up a blind, or you can go out there midday. We'll go out there sometimes midday, pop up a blind, cover it with a sheet, get it all covered in, and get all the branches and everything around it, and
yeah,
and then basically don't hunt it until the next morning.
Okay.
So
you
really have to kind of ambush the deer.
Right. So you're driving around. You found the spot. You've patterned the deer to see kind of where they're going. You're actually hunting in the wood line itself. You're not trying to stalk
sometimes,
the deer
yeah,
on your belly to try to shoot the deer.
Well, if you spot them on terraces, yes.
Okay. So
I mean, like this year, that's what I did this year, late season with a bow. I mean, because you really just have to kind of play the scenario, what's your best move?
Right. Okay.
And sometimes you may not see that deer and you have no idea where that deer came from or what his next move is. So sometimes the sneak is the best choice.
Okay.
And if you got a good wind, I mean, that's a no-brainer. But if you have a bad wind, I won't even attempt it, because it's really not worth. You know that deer is going to bust you. There's no way that you're going to get within 100 yards of that deer sometimes if that wind is blowing right in his face.
Right. Right.
But with the pistol, that's okay. With a bow, that's not okay.
Right. Right. Let's go to one of your bucks. You want to talk about the 2006 buck that you took with a pistol and walk us through that hunt, bring us back in time?
Well, that one was kind of my last year of hunting with a group of guys. That was a gun season. That was basically a group hunt. It was shotgun season. It was my buddy actually called me on the phone, told me that they had a big deer spotted in a section, and they knew he was in there, and they needed a couple more guys to cover the section. So he asked me if I wanted to go along.
Yeah.
And so I drove over there, and it was probably 20 miles away. And when I got there, they already had the section surrounded, and then they were actually starting to work some guys into this draw, and they were putting their posters on all the creeks and all the bottom land on the it would have been the west side of the field. And sometimes you'll stick trucks around the section as spotters too.
Okay.
So you can kind of watch, what's going on, because really, if you don't know where that deer's going, it's kind of hard to, because they can sneak out in a heartbeat and you won't even know they're gone.
Right.
So I just decided to, the deer were kind of just mingling out in the edge of the field, working their way through this creek. And we had two guys going down the creek to the east, and we had some guys posted on the fence lines and some guys posted along the road, and basically where they were going to get out of that section, because there was another section to the north of us that we couldn't hunt anyway. So normally we try to keep that deer where we can hunt him.
Right.
So I just decided to go up the half-mile line. So I got out of my truck and I took my pistol and I walked up the ditch and over the fence and walked down the half-mile fence line about 100 yards. And I could see over the hillside, and I could see that whole creek bottom and everything. And I could actually see the deer running right to me.
Really?
And I mean, it was just luck. I mean, sometimes with the group hunting and stuff, that's why I said it's very unpredictable. But sometimes, right place, right time is
right.
Very true for deer.
So the deer was on the run
but
because of the other hunters pushing? Yeah,
the guys pushing them towards the road and where everybody were posted along the bottom side of the hill. And I went up the half-mile line, and they actually came through the half-mile and started running right towards me. And then they decided to kind of go another, I think they were probably going to go run through the quarter mile. So basically between the road and the half-mile fence. And I'm just sitting there watching these deer because, they said there was a big one in here, and I'm watching. There's 5 or 6 bucks in there, maybe 10 does. And I'm just sitting there just watching these deer, I'm like, no. And then all of a sudden this buck pops over the hill, and I'm like, holy cow, there he is. I mean, it was just a no-brainer. You could see his tines sticking out of.
Is it? Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I shoot a Thompson Center Contender 41 mag, and it's very accurate. I reload my own ammo, and this gun has shot so well for me for years. I haven't touched it. And the deer were on a dead run. I maybe put that crosshair half or maybe 2 feet in front of his chest, and he was over 100 yards away running.
Wow.
And I watched him hunch. I mean, right when I shot, I watched him hunch, and I'm like, man, I thought I shot right over his back.
Is that right?
I mean, that's what it kind of looked like, you know. And then my buddy was down the road, maybe a quarter of a mile, and he was down the fence row at there's basically a gate hole from a farm place, and they were like running right through there and all across the road right there, and I could hear him yelling.
Really?
So, he was yelling. He was like, "Oh, you got him," because he was bleeding like crazy when he crossed the road.
Gotcha.
He only went maybe 75 yards on the other side of the road, and he was just right over the hill when we went over there. But
so this buck
it was exciting just because of the shot more than anything. I mean, because it was.
That's what I was just thinking. I was just listening to your story, and that's exactly what kind of stuck out is that you took a Thompson center and shot at a buck on a dead run at 100 yards, put it 2 feet in front of the chest, and put it on and got a kill shot on it.
Yep,
that's amazing. Now,
I've done that like 3 times with that gun.
No kidding. Does the gun have? You're not shooting open sights with that, right? You've got a scope.
I don't have a powered scope at all.
Really?
It's just a red crosshair. It's just it's the Bushnell PowerPoint.
Yeah.
It's like it turns red and green, and you can turn it from a dot to a circle to a dot circle crosshair. And it's amazing because what I have found is my hand-eye coordination is much faster with that scope. And it's almost like shooting clay birds with a shotgun. Because if you have both eyes open, you can really watch the deer and you can see that crosshair while the deer is running. Wow. And it's just an instinctive thing. I mean, I don't know why, but I used to shoot a lot of clay birds and stuff like that with my bow. So, I mean, I don't know.
So what made you decide to put the crosshairs 2 feet in front of the chest?
Basically the speed. I mean, those deer were moving. They were full speed.
Okay.
I mean, if you shoot at a deer at 100 yards running, you're definitely going to miss him.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a good 4 foot, at that distance, you're talking quite a lead. And I guess that was just, I don't know, that was just an instinctive place that I had put the pistol and I was, leaning on the fence. So it worked out.
Sounded like the scope and you had both eyes open when you took the shot.
Yep.
So that sounds like that helped out a little bit because you may, if you're trying to, close one eye and pick up that deer at 100 yards with a scope, you may not be able to find that deer.
Yeah.
It's not going to be in your
running,
scope.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So you got to have a 2-eye open kind of system going on in order to pull that shot off.
Yep.
Gotcha. So the deer ran, it doesn't sound like it ran very far.
Maybe 250 yards.
Wow. That's a lot. Okay.
But I hit him perfect though. I mean,
right.
He ran down the hill and I hit him right behind the legs, went through both lungs.
Yeah. And what did it score out
There's
at?
definitely some luck involved.
There's always a little luck involved in deer hunting. There's no question about that.
Oh, yeah.
And there's nothing, there's always an element of luck. You can do everything perfect and you still may strike out.
Yep.
What did it score out at when it was all said and done?
He's a mainframe 8. He's got one sticker on him, but he grossed 164 5/8.
Okay.
And he netted 157 7/8, I believe.
Very nice. That's a great buck.
And at the time, he was one of the bigger 8-pointers. There's definitely been some really big ones taken since then. But
Right. Well, it was absolutely amazing deer there, and we had to hear the story behind the hunt. It was worth telling. The picture's worth 1,000 words, but we want to get the other 10,000. So,
yep.
I'd like you to come back on the show again because we have 5 or maybe even 6 more deer to cover, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And we can just do a couple at a time. But we're pushing on about 40 minutes now, so I know it's getting late, so I'll let you go. But I wanted to say thank you from the Big Buck Registry and the Big Buck Podcast and all of our listeners, and thank you for sharing your story with us.
Yeah, no problem.
And we'll do another show very soon. We'll have you on for the next one.
Okay.
Very cool.
I look forward to it.
All right, Aaron. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye. All right. That was Aaron Hill. Thank you to Aaron for being on the show. And guys, that's a wrap. So again, thank you to Jim Krueger and Aaron Hill. Good luck to everybody at the Big Buck Registry contest. And we'll check in with you right here next week at the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast.